this year, in fact, on the 31st of December 2023, I told myself that this year, 2024, there are a lot of things I would like to improve in my life, a lot of things I would like to leave behind, and a lot of new things I would like to try and add them to my life for an improvement. On that very 31st night, when I went to church, fortunately for me, they were selling books. I mean, diaries, devotionals, and a whole lot. So I went to the bookstand and then I bought a diary. And I told myself that I was going to record every single thing that happens from the 1st of January to the 1st of December 2024. And I am going to see what I have constantly been writing in my diary. And so we are in April already. And within the past 3 months, I started to read through my diary and see the things that I've been writing, see those ones that are consistent. And then I knew that, oh, okay, so this is what it is. And after I read through my diary, I realized that there was one particular thing that kept repeating itself in my diary. And I just didn't understand why. You know, I've heard it a lot of times. My dad used to say that I rush too much in doing things. And then I have always known that I'm very, very impatient and then sometimes indecisive with regards to certain major decisions in my life. And I didn't, realize how crucial this thing actually was until I read through my diary. In fact, it's very, very surprising and yet embarrassing that while I kept some writing in my diary, should I even say this? But this is embarrassing. It's my single life. Don't get me wrong. I've been in relationships over the past years, and then somehow I kind of feel like these relationships are relationships that were not meant for me, because if they were meant for me, they would have lasted over the past years. But none of these relationships, lasted for me, which means that I rushed into a relationship. Either I was in a relationship at the wrong time with the right people, or I was in a relationship in the right time with the wrong people. I'm past 25 years, and at this stage of my life, I had someone serious in my life whom I know that, oh, definitely a year or 2 or 3, we will be getting married and then live our lives. That wouldn't be too bad. No, I wouldn't say it wouldn't be too bad. It wouldn't be bad, honestly. It would be the right thing to do. But then, at this stage of my life, I have nothing serious going on with my life in terms of relationships. Some friends of mine who got married at the age of 24 and all that. But then that isn't me. It was their time. God had designed it for the God's timing for them. They wouldn't have definitely gotten married. So I believe that it was God's timing for them. And so I wouldn't want to rush into a relationship, although I so much had wanted to be in a relationship during the past years, of which some of them didn't go on well. Some of them ended not the way I wanted them to end. And then in conclusion, I realized that it wasn't God's timing. Why do I say so? Always when I pray about a life partner, what I've always been praying about is that God should give me someone who is God-fearing. A man of God. When I talk about a man of God, I'm not talking about a pastor. No, that is not what I'm talking about. When I mean a man of God, I'm talking about a man who is God-fearing, who has God at heart, a prayerful man. That is what I want. I know that I'm not very prayerful, and I wouldn't want to spend the rest of my life with someone who is an equal yoke. No, I want someone who is more prayerful than I am, someone who is very consistent with his Bible studies, someone who motivates me to take my Christian life seriously. That is the kind of man I've always been praying for. And I've always been doing the opposite of what I've been praying for. Always when I enter into a relationship, I realized that over the past years, these guys that I was dating were guys who are supposed to be God-fearing, but then in actual sense, they don't do the things that I've been praying for in a man. What I didn't know is that love alone wasn't exactly what I was looking for in a relationship. Although I should love someone whom I want to be married to. I mean, we enter relationships because we know that we want to get married to these people whom we go into relationships with. If you're not ready to get married, why enter into a relationship? I don't think anyone enters a relationship for fun if you're really serious about life. I broke up with my previous boyfriends. It is very, like, I'm not proud of all these things as a Christian. No, I shouldn't be proud of them. In fact, it is very, very shameful to have been in several relationships with guys and then these relationships amounted to nothing. And so I realized that I rushed into these relationships and it was solely based on the fact that I felt lonely, and also because I felt like most of my friends were in relationships and then I needed to be in a relationship if I wanted to get married. But what I failed to take into consideration was if that particular moment was God's timing for me. But if it's not God's timing for you, no matter how much you love this person, the relationship will never work. Even if you should get married, you realize that at a point in time, there are regrets in the marriage. There is no happiness in the marriage. And then you realize that you have made the biggest mistake of your life. And I don't think any of us wants to get married only to divorce in a year or two. That isn't our plan. That isn't God's plan for us either. And this is something that I realized too late. And I realized that I have wasted my time in these relationships when I could have invested this time into waiting and praying and studying for a man whom I have always been praying for. And most importantly, God's timing. Now, why am I saying this? I have realized this at a later part in my life. I mean, I'm still young. I'm not even up to 30 years, which makes me still young and then still growing to learn to, make the right decisions in my life and to correct those ones that I've made in my life that were not so pleasing to God and even to myself and my parents as well. But I am saying this to encourage you out there that relationship isn't something that you should just rush into because you feel like your friends are into relationships, your friends are getting married, or because you feel like the society will look at you in a wrong way. No. If it is not God's timing and you rush into this relationship, my dear, know that this relationship is never going to work. And even if you get married, like I said earlier on, the regret you might feel later on is something that is irreversible. You may be still young, like 24, 22, 23. What is the rush? I mean, why would you rush to be in a relationship? I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people enter into relationships at the age of 23, 24, 20, even 22. And this relationship lasts to the extent that some of them even get married and they live a happy life after their marriage with no problems. That was God's timing for them. And I want to say that probably these relationships were based on a good foundation. When I'm talking about a good foundation, I'm talking about God's foundation. A relationship where you put God first in all that you do. A relationship where you don't rush into doing things that do not please God. I don't talk about things that do not please God. I'm talking about the sin of the flesh. These things are things that most people do in relationships. You realize that if you have, like, if, let's say, you are 30 years now and you've been in about 7 relationships and yet you are not yet married, and say that this past relationship with these 7 people that you've been in, you might probably have had something to do with each of these men. Now, ask yourself, what have you done to yourself? How do you want to enter marriage feeling about these past 7 relationships? You only realize that you'll be burdened with regrets and guilt. You will realize that probably you might find the right man, the man that you've been praying for. You have finally gotten this man, and then you realize that, why couldn't I wait for this particular person that I've been praying for all these years? Why did I waste my time doing things that were not pleasing to God, things that were not even good for your own body, with all these men that you've been in a relationship with, only to realize that they were not supposed to be your life partners? Waiting may take long, because you don't know how long it is going to take for God to prepare you for your God-ordained man or God-ordained woman. But it is not in a rush. Just make sure that it is God's timing for you. You are in the right relationships with the right people at the right time. Something you would not regret, something that is going to last for a lifetime. It is God's timing. There is nothing like confusion. You are not confused. You are certain. You are most certain that this is the person you want to be with. No two ways about that. I'm happy that I have gotten to realize what I have done wrong, what I've been missing in my life, which is patience and God's timing and making the right decisions. You might be going through the same ordeal. Probably you are in a relationship that you feel this isn't the right relationship for you, or you are in the right, you are in a relationship at the wrong time with the right person, or with the right person at the wrong time. This video might be for you. This is like my little advice to you. We may be on the same page or not, but then you can leave your comments. Many of us are eager to learn and to add new things in our life, and we wouldn't hesitate to read them, think over them, then add them to our lives.